Welcome to Valley, a world filled to the brim with creatures, big and small, all working together as they share in the prosperity and safety of their communities. The largest settlement in Valley is Three Tree City, a massive dwelling at the conjunction of the forests and the Long River, built across three ancient intertwined trees. It's home to a variety of animal folk and designed to accommodate their different sizes and shapes, whether these creatures are most comfortable in water, or land, or in the sky. Three Tree City has a place for them to call home. The upper branches of Three Tree City are filled with a dazzling array of bird folk, capable of great deeds of chivalry and selflessness. The bird folk are known for their inability to ignore injustice. Perhaps nothing demonstrates the character of the bird folk quite like the Plume Creed, a risky venture to the tip of the world, a mighty peak that no one but a brave bird folk can reach. You can recognize a bird folk who has completed the Plume Creed by the single feather they wear atop their head. Included in this set are several booster fun treatments to collect, one being the borderless raised foil anime cards. Dazzling raised gold foiling and exciting anime art make these cards the apex of collectability. Find English versions globally in collector boosters, and Japanese versions exclusively in Japanese collector boosters. The charming new showcase woodland frame treatment reads Kindred faction cards in frames of foliage, evoking a sense of pastoral beauty and natural elegance. They encapsulate the cozy energy of Bloomburrow and allow players to showcase their fondness for these kindred animals and express their own unique personalities. The closest natural allies of the bird folk are the mouse folk. Plucky, loyal seekers of adventure and glory, mousefolk have large interconnected families. There are few problems mousefolk can't overcome together. All the animal folk of Valley cherish their young, and springtime is particularly rich with new life. The new mechanic, Offspring, enables you to create 1/1 creature tokens that represent the young version of an animal species. The offspring of your animal folk will have the same abilities as the parent creature. The only difference is their 1/1 power and toughness. They are still children after all. These young creatures of Valley show promise and are eager to take on the adventures that lie ahead. Rabbit folk are also community focused, as well as being talented chefs and farmers who provide food to most of the creatures in Valley. They're conflict-averse as a rule, preferring to let trouble blow over them rather than stick their noses in it. That doesn't mean that they can't defend themselves, though. Phineas is one such guardian of the animal folk in Valley. This adeptly trained archer stands ready to protect his home from afar, as well as his companions as they venture through Valley. Gathering together is a surefire path to strength. Bloomburrow encourages your creatures to band together so they can gain extra benefits. These kindred animal folk must share with each other in order to survive. The new mechanic, Gift, allows you to gift your opponent a benefit to reap more value out of a spell or artifact. The gift varies depending on the card. It might be food tokens, an extra card, a 1/1 fish, or something else. Through their natural durability, the strength of their kindred bonds, and the willingness to share, the animal folk of Valley can survive almost anything. There are those in Valley that prefer moonlight to sunlight. Bat folk are deeply protective of their community, occasionally superstitious, and focused on maintaining the balance between all things: light and darkness, life and death, and of course, day and night. Nocturnal creatures, they use the moon and stars to determine their choices and fuel their magic. As a result of being awake when others are asleep, they serve as silent guardians of the vulnerable creatures of Valley. Raccoon folk are free-spirited wanderers, collectors, and entertainers. Moira, trash tactician, wields new mechanic, Expend, rewarding you for spending 4 or more mana in a single turn. This fearsome raccoon also likes to work closely with fellow raccoon folk, adding red or green mana for each raccoon you control. Rather than settling down in Three Tree City or elsewhere, raccoons spend their lives on the move, acquiring a hoard of objects along the way. Some may call it trash, but to a raccoon, every broken teapot and piece of wagon wheel is a treasure. There are even more creatures who thrive in odd and adverse circumstances in Three Tree City. The lizard folk are a culture of expressive artists. They value creation and destruction in equal measure. Lizards also have a spiritual attachment to fire. As cold-blooded creatures, they rely on the heat from flame when sunbathing is not an option. Lizard communities can often be found bundled together around a fire or furnace, sharing this sacred connection. The squirrel folk are morbid stewards of land and the life-death cycle. Though they focus mostly on burying the remains of the dead, a select few squirrel folk are able to bring bones back from the grave for their own purposes. The squirrel folk have also become expert at maintaining themselves through caches of food collected through the art of foraging. The new mechanic, Forage, is a squirrel-themed mechanic that allows you to exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food token to gain an effect. Rat folk are isolationist keepers of secrets and ancient relics. They have survived harsh circumstances by forming psychic connections with native insects. With their insect companion by their side, rat folk can be quite formidable in a pinch. Down by the waterways of Three Tree City, entirely different groups make their home. The otter folk are playful and fun-loving, with a strong daredevil streak. They seek thrills by storm chasing, the practice of following menacing creatures called calamity beasts as closely as possible, until the danger becomes too great even for these adventurous critters. The frog folk are curious and intelligent. They possess a unique culture of augury, which allows them a limited understanding of the future. While their foresight makes them an instrumental part of life in Valley, it also results in many frogs being fatalistic. It's hard to smile when you can always see the waiting doom. Sometimes the frog folk, acting on their own foresight, can bring doom upon themselves. The wizard Glab, for instance, has recently stolen an egg from the great night owl, inviting retaliatory wrath from the powerfully winged creature of darkness. This legendary elemental bird carries night on its wings that blackens the sky. Maha is just one of the many dangers across Valley. These animal folk must coexist with calamity beasts, mighty creatures which blur the line between flesh and blood animals and elemental forces of nature. And for naturalists, the borderless field notes treatment captures the raw power of calamity beasts, rendered in the wild by a loving hand. But the people of Three Tree City are not helpless. The great hero Mabel forms a party of adventurers to protect Valley against the calamity beasts, aided by the now transformed Ral Zarek, who is more than happy to lend a paw. Since there are no humans to be found on Bloomburrow, Ral has magically transformed into an otter upon arriving on this plane. How interesting. But even without help from allies outside of Valley, the animal folk are capable of using magic to defend themselves. A cycle of modal spells allows you to select from a list of 3 abilities. In this set, they're each valued at 1, 2, or 3 paws. Choose up to 5 paws worth to gain those effects. You may even choose the same mode more than once. The card type class is returning with a focus on bakers, blacksmiths, artists, and other villagers. Pay the mana cost at each level to gain its ability, working your way down to all 3. Life goes on in Valley. The turning of the seasons, the tilling of the earth, and the occasional upheaval are all aspects of the everyday to these brave critters. It is not the mighty warriors that make Three Tree City what it is, but the little folk who carry on day after day. There are also heroes and commanders in Valley who are truly adept at inspiring the animals around them. Led by Bello, Bard of the Brambles, the animated army deck lets you ramp into impressive calamity beasts, cast expensive permanents to synergize with the main set's expend mechanic. With Commander Zinnia, Valley's voice, the Family Matters deck specializes in doubling up on enters the battlefield effects by granting your creatures offspring. Fill the board with 1/1 token versions of your creatures. Hazel of the Root Bloom leads the Squirreled Away deck. Outvalue your foes with a combination of squirrel and food tokens. This deck includes some traditional kindred effects for squirrel fans. With the Peace Offering deck, Ms. Bumbleflower hands out cards using the gift mechanic. This deck evokes a group hug style of play that's friendly, until it isn't. In addition to the main set's Imagine Courageous Critters cards, Tameo is one of 4 that can be found in the Commander decks. Because Bloomburrow has its own unique aesthetic, planeswalkers and creatures who happen to end up theoretically like that are transformed into denizens of light. With the Imagine Courageous Critters treatment, your favorite planeswalkers and creatures have been utterly transformed by the adorable lens of Bloomburrow, which brings out their inner animal soul. See powerful creatures and favorite planeswalkers.
Se nos cayó el stream.
A ver. ¿Estamos al aire? ¿Me estamos escuchando? ¿Así me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan? Vamos a ver si es que por el chat tenemos retorno, señores. Me está escuchando Chile a lo largo y ancho de esta bella y linda patria que hoy día, señores, juega Moderno. ¿Me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan? ¿Estamos al aire? A ver qué nos dice la gente del chat si que logramos tener retorno. ¿Nos escuchan? ¿Nos escuchan? Muy bien, señores. Aquí estamos, presente una vez más. Arrancamos de nuevo. Muy buenos días, Chile. Muy buenos días, el mundo. Muy buenos días de habla hispana. Soy Gio, de Fury, a través de las pantallas de Streamcaster Mix. Estoy a mi lado con Huguito Castro. ¿Cómo estás, Hugo?
Yo estoy súper bien. Arrancamos con todo un torneo que, como estaba comentando recién a los chicos, pensábamos que iba a ser un torneo más o menos un poco más flojo de lo normal, pensando en esta situación en la que nos vemos justo ahora, en donde vamos a tener un baneo prontamente a finales de agosto. Entonces, eso nos hizo pensar un montón al respecto de que quizá la gente iba a esperar un poco, a sentar el metagame y a esperar ese metagame nuevo, pero claramente no fue así. La gente quiere jugar Magic.
La gente quiere jugar Magic. Incluso ante post-adversidad, la gente quiere jugar Magic. Ya estamos, señores, en la mesa número 1, piloteando. Vamos a ver lo que tenemos en la mesa número 1. Señores, vamos a lo que vinimos, a la ronda número 1 de Moderno.
En la mesa 1 tenemos a Cristian Carrasco y a Nicolás Villanueva.
A Cristian Carrasco y a Nicolás Villanueva. Podemos identificar que están piloteando cada uno de nuestros players.
No se alcanza a ver muy bien la pantallita. Vamos a pedirle a Nico que más o menos
pueda enfocar un poco más. Por mientras vamos a darle, muchachos, algunos datos técnicos.
Un dato relevante de la mesa 1 es que Cristian Carrasco en algún momento fue un clasificado Pro Tour del año 2013, si no me equivoco.
Muy bien.
De Teros del 2013. Lamentablemente no pudo jugar ese Pro Tour el amigo, pero clasificó. Así que ya quiere decir que al tiro partimos en la mesa 1 con players más o menos de un buen level.
Bueno, así y para poder Moderno igual te exige un gran conocimiento, un gran pilotaje en Magic. Y claramente después de este tirón nuevamente de riendas que vuelve a hacer Magic con Modern Horizon 3, que nos vuelve a resetear todo lo que era el meta de que estaba acostumbrado a Moderno, que nos vuelve a pegar el tirón y que, bueno, crea un protagonista que es fundamental, que es el Nadu, que va a estar el mazo tier, que va a estar dando vuelta a lo largo de todo este día. Creo que volvimos a la mesa, volvimos a la pantalla.
Mira, cosas relevantes como para conversar hoy día es que como no tenemos este baneo que se va a venir, vamos a tener, esto es como, a mi ver, es como un Pro Tour Poker. Vamos a tener una versión más pequeñita del Pro Tour, vamos a tener una versión con los jugadores como de primera línea chilenos que juegan este formato. Este formato yo diría que es el de más alto nivel, diría que Modern es como el formato estrella de Magic, el que permite usar prácticamente todas las mecánicas que existen en el juego. Y la verdad las cosas es que si bien el formato ha estado cambiando en la última semana y como que se ha ido adecuando a Nadu sigue teniendo el mayor win rate. Tenemos también algunas versiones de Sky Control que le tratan de hacer un poco el peso, y tenemos versiones de Mardu que a mí me parece que esos tres mazos son una variedad de removes que nos permiten mantener la amenaza real que hace